ahead and get started. I'm pretty excited about this panel, and we have quite an interesting, really collective of folks on to talk about a little bit of an inverse of what Nate was moderating earlier today. So we'll be focusing on plant-based solutions for cell-based products. And I'm really excited to jump right in. But first off, I will pass it off to some of the panelist members to give us a quick introduction, your name, your company, and then we'll go from there. So I'll pass it off to Ruth first. Please give us a quick introduction.
Hi everyone. Yes, a pleasure to be on the panel. So I'm Ruth, the CSO of HigherSteaks. HigherSteaks is a cultivated meat company based in Cambridge, UK. It was founded in 2018, and we are using novel methods to create cultivated pork products.
Great, and feel free to popcorn to someone else. Eric is next for me.
All right, hi, I'm Eric Jenkysky. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Matrix Meats. Our name is a little bit of a misnomer in that we do not actually manufacture any meat, but rather we're designers and manufacturers of three-dimensional nanofibers for scaffolds for the cultivation of meat.
Great, and Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Kelly Floch, also glad to be on the panel. I'm an engineer and entrepreneur based in France, and I co-founded 77 Foods in 2019 with Nicolas Schweitzer and Vincent Poulichet, and I've been working as a company COO until mid-2021. And the main differentiator for the product we developed is a plant-based fat that mimics animal fat, and we integrated it in a pork bacon to prove how delicious a plant-based product can be when we innovate on this key component. And in the future, we'll keep developing new products with the goal of convincing new customers to try alternative protein solutions.
Thank you. And Giuseppe?
Hello, calling here from Spain. We are NOVAMEAT. I am CEO and founder, and I am an ex-professor in tissue engineering. So I've been working first in creating organs for a decade, and then I had the idea to try to apply a new technology, which I call micro-extrusion, which allows to orientate the fibers of plant-based, cell-based. We use that so far for plant-based and cell-based, and we've done some very nice prototypes at small scale, and now we are focusing on scaling up our manufacturing capabilities. So what we focus on is whole cuts, and we focus on not the next generation of plant-based meats, which are the whole cuts, and we can do that either only plant-based or also hybrid. So we have done beef sticks plant-based, we have done pork whole cuts plant-based, but then we have done 2021 also an hybrid where we have been able to create, we've been using adipose-derived stem cells together with a very advanced scaffold, and we were able to create the largest cell-based whole cut in January 2021. Happy to be here.
Excellent, thank you. And my name is Alex. I'll be moderating the panel. I'm the host of the Cultured Meat and Future Food Show. And I want to give a quick shout out to Ahmed and also Geza for organizing everything. And Geza, the new protein directory layout looks awesome and has been a great resource. So thank you for that. I'm going to jump right in and really direct the first question to Eric and Ruth, and really ask, why would cell-cultured meat companies want to have plant-based really integrated into their product? And maybe Eric, because your team is working primarily on scaffolds, maybe you can start, and then we could pass it off to Ruth.
Well, similar to Giuseppe's background, our scientific team has over almost 15 years of experience in tissue engineering and in regenerative medicine, and that's one of the reasons why we decided to look at repurposing that technology for this industry. Previously, we worked mostly with synthetic polymers, and still believe synthetic polymers can offer some real advantages for some of the potential meat products. But our customer base was really seeking a plant-based solution for for the extracellular matrix or scaffolds. So we embarked upon developing both Zane and soy-based, and we're actually currently looking at about 6 other plant-based materials to be able to develop scaffolds that we think the industry wants and needs, especially if you're going to be really trying to be animal free. And I know that's one of the challenges that we have as an industry in total, is that there are so many different components that are still, unfortunately, animal derived. So that's why we're real interested in the plant-based side, and believe that at least in the near term, hybrid products, both plant-based and cultivated meat-based, are going to be the way we build this market and build this industry.
Great. And yeah, go ahead, Ruth.
Yeah, no, I think mine follows on perfectly from Eric's, actually. So I think of this from more of a biological perspective as well. So what are we trying to do when we make cultivated meat? We're effectively trying to make a tissue structure. And, there are current technical limitations with that as well. So perfusion of the cells in growth being one of them. The best option is to look for plant-based scaffolding in order to permit perfusion, permit nutrient media to the cells. And it seems like an incredibly obvious and compatible situation to work with the plant-based materials in order to do that.
Great. And so I kind of want to ask, an inverse of that question to Giuseppe and Kelly. Before I do that, I have a little demo here, and Impossible released their Impossible Nuggets just a couple days ago. And let me see if this camera work is actually gonna, you guys see that all right? So this is the Impossible Chicken Nugget. This one is 100% plant-based. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it right now and kind of showcase like what's inside and really ask a little bit about feedback there. So I don't know if that's coming through to the camera, but this looks like a chicken nugget, right? And I will say, from maybe a preference profile or a taste profile, I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of maybe 77 foods fat in there. But I guess from a standpoint of plant-based products, and this is again directed towards Kelly and Giuseppe, why is it interesting to your team that you do pursue opportunities with cell-based meat? And I know, Giuseppe, your team printed a large, I think might have even been the largest cell-based meat, 3D printed cell-based meat piece. So I guess, to direct the question again, why is it interesting for your teams to go after the cell-based meat market?
Yeah, first I need to say that the day I said we would use hybrid technologies, it was the same day, it was 10 minutes in the same event. I know that there is a mic from the Spoon here. I was in the same event from the Spoon when Patrick Brown said cell-based meat was complete vaporware. 10 minutes after, I was not connected, I was in backstage, and then I said, so NOVAMEAT, we have done these new amazing prototypes. So this was 10 minutes after Patrick Brown said that it was a disaster because it would never work. Okay, Patrick Brown is amazing. I've been writing articles on +1, etc. But on tissue engineering, you always know that Impossible is not able to do beef sticks, right? Impossible is not able to do sirloins. Impossible is not able to do chicken breast. Why everybody's doing nuggets? Why everybody's doing? So there is a next generation products, and the next generation require more technology, more advanced technology. So advanced technology, you don't only rely on ingredients and flavors, on the patents that, for example, explain how leg-hemoglobin works, but you also need additional technology, including tissue engineering technology. So because NOVAMEAT started with tissue engineering technology, I always thought it would have been a pity if we were not able to incorporate just the best functional ingredients. If the best functional ingredient to create the next generation cuts, for example, we're focusing on whole cuts, right? So the things that even Impossible says it takes 2 years before they can say something about that. So if you're doing the most complex ones, you know that if you're aiming for the benchmarks, imagine Wagyu or something, you want to have the best fat, the best protein. So it's not the same as a ground meat, first. And second, I would say that functional ingredients really demonstrate their superiority. So what we do normally is we want to add these ingredients, create these hybrid products, because we want to demonstrate that there is an additional value of having these ingredients. Maybe at the beginning it's premium, and maybe we can do that only with our top restaurants collaborators. So we started collaborating with number 9 best restaurant in the world, which is Disfrutar, which is the head chefs of El Bulli, for one reason, because we think the new products, the most advanced products, the ones, for example, the hybrid products, should go first in top restaurants, so that the people really think this is not fake meat. This is better than meat that they can find in supermarkets and in some restaurants.
Great. And directing that question to Kelly, and maybe adding an add-on, why is it interesting for your team to go after cell-based meat? And that add-on question is really, when we see cell-cultured meat, cell-cultured companies creating cell-cultured fat, Mission Barnes, for example, how does the plant-based version compare to really the cell-based version? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's something we've been monitoring quite closely, because everybody is chasing bacon. And at 77 Foods, we're doing it purely plant-based. So there's no cell-based technology at the moment. The goal is to bring the best possible version to the market as quickly as possible. And being based in Europe, the company has to go with the current regulation. So going for plant-based, and it's already possible to do quite amazing product with plants now. But this being said, animal fat is absolutely delicious. So we're not surprised to see cell-based company developing cell-based animal fats to enhance the product they're developing themselves, or the chicken nuggets that you just showed on screen. One of the reasons why some meat lovers consider moving away from meat is because they know excessive consumption is bad for their health. And the plant-based fat could score better than animal meat on this topic. And because, for example, it's possible to fine-tune the fat profile, like saturated and unsaturated, the ratio of omega-3 and 6, by choosing the oils you use. So in the plant domain, there are different types of oils that have different properties. And as an R&D engineer, R&D team developing a new product, basically you're trying to give the consumer the best they can have. And I believe in the future, you're going to be inspired and to pick on the best functional ingredients that you can find. In some way, it's not going to be technology-based, so you don't really care if it comes from cell-based, plant-based, or fermentation or fungi, as long as it answers a consumer need and desire, or a functional need for the product. So plant-based fat here, once again, can be a solution to get more control on what happens, for example, during cooking, with the melting temperature, avoid fat burning, and things like that are not desirable for the final consumer. And of course, the second reason is cost, in addition to regulation, but industrial production is based on more mature technologies already available at scale, and raw ingredients, like plant-based oils, that are more easily available on the market today than cell-based fat. I'm talking about short and medium term. Maybe the future will look different, but for companies looking to develop products today, this is what the surroundings look like.
Great. And what we'll talk about near the end of this conversation is future products, what kind of novel foods could look like, and maybe as much as we can divulge, maybe some percentages, but we can discuss that near the end. I have a question that I want to direct towards Ruth and then Giuseppe, you as well. Ruth, your team created pork belly, or creates pork belly, and also I think there was a bacon example of that. And I believe that was cell-based fat. Is that correct?
No, that was cell-based muscle.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. So that answers my next question, is that, would cell-based meat companies be very open to using plant-based fat? And that definitely answers the question. And so passing it on to Giuseppe, was it plant-based or cell-based fat as well in your example?
We normally, when you use protein extract, there is always some molecules of fat, even if you use the most concentrated extract. So there is, of course, some plant-based fat. But we did 2 tests. One was with adipose-derived stem cells, which we differentiated towards fat cells, so adipocytes, and that was so cell-based fat in that example. We have done that in our IP. We cover both the fact that you can add live cells, either by bioprinting or with microextrusion at scale in the formulation before you extrude. You can add the cells even in the matrix, right? So you can get a microporous structure, similar to what Aleph Farms has done in the Nature Food article, where Tom, that I think is here, and Professor Levenberg have put some cells inside this texturized soy product. And we have been demonstrating also that we can do that with cell extracts. Okay, so we have done, but in the case of cell extract, we have done a prototype which was with protein cell extract, which is something that we will release. And I think that there is a news that it's kind of the first time I say we have developed what is a super hybrid. So we have been able for the first time to create the first, let's say, hybrid with the 5 different ingredients from the 5 different living kingdoms. So we have been adding algae, animal-based mycelium, bacteria fermentation, and fungi. Mycelium. Then I'm missing plant-based, of course. So this is a news, and it shows that what we want to do is flexibility. What is important here is flexibility to embark in the next few months and years towards more complex products.
Great, and I mean, talk about superfood, having something from all 5 kingdoms. But I want us to kind of stray away a little bit from fats and maybe first talk about scaffolding, but also, so generally, as we are looking at ways that plant-based can help support cell-based, what are some ways other than fats that could happen? And again, let's start with scaffolding. So Eric, maybe you could kind of highlight a little bit about why it's important to use plant-based for scaffolds, and also if there are any other applications that could be really helpful to support cell-based technologies.
Well, in addition to the scaffolds that we're manufacturing that are, as I stated earlier, based on Zane and soy, we also have a microcarrier product that competes most directly, I would say, with Cytodex. But I think some of the benefits are that with Cytodex, you have to harvest the cells off of the Cytodex, and there's a yield loss. And with our product, you wouldn't have to do that. It's if we don't allow the scaffold to fully degrade, it's then used as part of the structure of the finished product, and it's consumable. Or if we allow it to fully degrade, then so you eliminate a step in the manufacturing process. But absolutely, plant. As I said earlier, because I think the goal is to, other than the cells that we take as a biopsy to create the meat in the first place, we really want to move toward a complete animal-free product, and that we're not exploiting animals in order to be able to create these products. So that's why we think the plant-based scaffolds are really important. However, as I said earlier, with a product like with PGA, polyglycolic acid as an example, that synthetic has been used in tissue engineering for a number of years, and it's very successful at growing tissue. I think another challenge that the industry faces is really the cells are different, even within satellite cells within a single chicken breast. They'll have different differentiation, proliferation rates, etc. And you need to find a product that's able to help create those myotubes, because you got to get to the myotube, right? You have to have a myocyte in order to create lactic acid or not lactic acid, the proteins that otherwise it's just it's just a cell. It's not it's not a cell with any type of nutritional value, right? So that's where I think our product, if you're looking to get myotubes, etc., our product can be on a mechanical device that you can stretch and exercise and help provide direction and instruction to the cells. So, but the great thing is you can do that with a corn-based or Zane or soy. And here in Ohio, where we're located, it's soy is a very, very large crop. It's readily available. I think it's one of the reasons why Gathered Foods is located here with their fish-based products, because soy is readily available in Ohio. Let me tell you, I can look out my window and see it.
Great, and I think referencing, I think it was originally brought to at least my attention from Andrew Stout back in 2019. I think it was Andrew talking about scaffolds and really the taste and texture profile before any cell cultured meat was added. So do you have any insight on, if we don't add any cell cultured meat and kind of taste this scaffold as raw as possible, is that something that would still give us a meaty texture?
So here's my take on that. If you go to the supermarket and you buy a box, a cake mix, and you bring it home and you dump the cake mix into the pan, but you don't add any egg or oil, and you cook it up, and then you say, well, this doesn't taste like a cake. And for us, a critical component of the finished delivered product, our product is designed to have the cells growing on it, the cells degrading it, etc. So it's really critical to have that process. Without it, it's like you're growing, you're cooking up just one of the ingredients of a finished product, and then thinking it doesn't work. And I think that's one of the one of the things that has to be taken into consideration when folks use a product. Because I'll be direct, that's happened to us. People that got the scaffold, threw it in the pan, cooked it up, and we're like, oh well, this is terrible. Well, it's because it hasn't. There's a reaction that occurs with the cells, and that reaction wasn't allowed to play out, and then it's kind of hard to judge it if that hasn't happened, especially when it's a scaffold that's designed to fully degrade and it won't even be in the finished product. That's a concern. So, and there's definitely other items like with Zane, you want it to be as pure as possible, and the carotenoids, you want to have all that which give it that color and the kind of the corn taste. And if you can remove as much of that as possible, then the corn taste is very faint or non-existent, and it's able. So you need to have like 93-94% like pure Zane. So but there's I think that if I'm trying to say this the right way, be politically correct. If you could, there's a lot of people that think they can grow cells in 3 weeks, and I always tell folks that tell me that if they can grow cells in 3 weeks, they're in the wrong business. They need to get over in regenerative medicine, and they'll be billionaires by the following week. That's the reality. We view that it takes a little bit longer, but it's still dramatically faster than growing a whole animal to slaughter them. And that's the way we look at it. And I know as costs come down with the other input variables like growth media and et cetera, that we'll be able to get, we'll be able to have the time necessary to produce a real product.
Great, yeah. So key rule there is that you must follow instructions. So
follow instructions and follow nature. I mean, cells have an inherent timeline, right? An inherent process that they have to follow, and I obviously I think there's things you can do to help expedite that process, but I think some of the expectations that are out there are at least at present unrealistic.
Right. So let's transition over to consumer perception, and I want to kind of direct this question because it's a little bit different for everyone. I'll first direct the question to Kelly and really ask, what do consumers think when they hear that 77 Foods product could be applied to sell cultured meat? Is that something that is in your communications or messaging? Or if you don't know what consumers think about that, what do you think they would think, especially coming from a plant-based background?
Yeah, so to answer your question directly, at the moment, no, it's not part of 77 Foods communication. And in fact, it's not yet part of 77 Foods roadmap. So the company is really focusing on plant-based at the moment. But something we learned from communication is maybe the link between science, technology, and marketing. So when we presented publicly 77 Foods Bacon for the first time, so it was, imagine a rooftop at sunset with journalists and Instagram influencers, our team was very, very proud of all the technical and scientific challenges that we had to solve to develop this product. Like we patented plant-based fat that really looks so closely to animal fat. And we were surprised by how little question the journalists and influencers had on how it's made. It looked good, it tasted good, and that's what mattered for most people. So as everybody here as startup founders and experts of the sector, we're familiar with words like cell-based, plant-based, scaffolding, hybrid products, but the general public is not. And I believe we should choose which concepts need to be widely communicated through marketing and which ones will not. It's not a question of not being transparent. Like we can always disclose information and explain how it's made, but we should not expect everybody to catch on all the concepts and to be willing to go into all the scientific details, because there's no way this is going to be massively communicated like on if one day our products reach the global ambition that we all have. And I think Olivia de Tanosse and David Welch mentioned that already in a previous talk earlier today around the perception of him in Impossible Foods burgers, for instance, that everybody in the R&D and in the internal team at Impossible thought it would be a big deal, but consumer did not want much to know about it. They just wanted the product to taste good. And in a way, the same has been done in the past years with cultivated meat, which used to be called various names, such as lab meat, lab ground meat, cell-based, or cultured meat. And collectively simplifying and using the same wording is really key for an efficient communication. And probably the same needs to happen to hybrid product. I don't know if hybrid is the same word. I think we need real world data of non-expert people being asked those questions and learning from, maybe what we learned already in the past around cell-based and plant-based, and around how innovation and technology in the food world can translate into the plates and fridge of real people who maybe don't know much and maybe don't want to know much about how it's really made.
Great, and I think really talking about that marketing aspect is something interesting. If we do have time, I'd like to get back to it. And I do want to mention that if anybody does have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I know we are coming up on time shortly, but if you do have any questions, feel free to send those over. I want to pass it up to Giuseppe and ask, what do people think about 3D printed foods?
Yeah, so plant-based, it's like polarizing. Cell-based is extremely polarizing, and 3D printed hybrids is you just get crazy and you want to kill us. Sometimes I get people sending strange messages to us from the States and from ranches. So what happens is we work with the top chefs in the world, right? So what happens is that we don't care. We do something that the taste is very good, and the big news is the 3D printer is for the top chefs and for the restaurants. For scaling up, we don't use 3D printers. We use micro extrusion at scale, which produces at now 1 ton per hour. So it's not even 3D printed. But we like polarizing. We don't care. It's like a Tesla. If the machine goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2 seconds, there is no comparison. I'm Italian, but Ferrari and Lamborghini cannot do that, right? So in the long term, people will understand that if it just tastes better. What do you think is, if you get in a supermarket a whole cut, which is a cheap whole cut, like a beef stick that doesn't taste like anything, doesn't taste good because it's thin, and you compare with something which is very good, then we think that we reach the really what we're aiming for. What we do is a science, and we do some art as well, in which we create, and we try to do that because we like what we do, and we think that it provides something better for the planet, the animals, etc. So we use the 3D printer, and we like the fact it's polarizing, but we do it super chef. So the people, out of curiosity, say, I want to eat that. This is not fake meat. This is something that I want to try because maybe it's even superior to what I've been testing, and I cannot afford a Kobe Wagyu beef of $300 per kilo. So that's it, I think, what I would say about that.
Great, yeah, and I think polarizing is good, and I think that's interesting parallel to what people talk about in the lab, right? Lab grown meat, it's not going to, everything, all that they, the common response to that is everything, all foods start in a lab, right? And I think the 3D printer example is interesting too. So I want to pass it off to Ruth and ask, really, your team has demoed product, has had multiple tastings. What, do people ask, like, what percentage of this is cell cultured meat? Do they even think about that? Do they ask about the fat? Any insight you can share there?
Yeah, and to be honest, HigherSteaks have always been pretty open with this. So the bacon demonstration we did last year was 70% cultivated muscle versus 30% plant fats, proteins. And I think this is something that we should be more explicit about, particularly because I don't think it's a negative thing to say, we've created a hybrid product, because if anything, it's a natural progression. Now we're trying to perfectly mimic meat in its entirety, and growing cells in culture cannot simply do that alone. And so I think, taking from what we know about plant-based products, they've been around for much, much longer. We're not reinventing the wheel, and we see it as, what can we learn from those plant-based products that will help us to achieve the perfect meat product? I'm a molecular biologist by training, and the first thing I think about is, what is that molecule chemistry? How do those molecules interact? And we could learn so much from the plant-based proteins, fats, sugars even, which can help contribute to structure, texture, flavor. And I think this is something that should be spoken of more throughout the cellular agriculture field, because we're all learning, and it is definitely something that it can help the field grow much quicker if that communication was there.
Great. On a similar note, Eric, what would you say the percentage of the plant-based scaffold would be in a completed cell-based product that uses matrix meat scaffolding?
It could be anywhere. It could be anywhere from 50% to 0. When we set out on this, our goal was to be able to help create whole cuts of meat where 0% of our scaffold was left behind. And there was a study that was done at the University of Pennsylvania Medical Center on volumetric muscle loss, where they used our technology to grow mouse muscle and reinsert that muscle into a mouse that had a traumatic injury. And so for us, that's what proves the ability to use the scaffold tech to grow a structured piece of muscle. And so, like I said, it could be anywhere. It all depends on what the customers needs and wants. But I did want to clap for Ruth for a couple of the comments that she made, that I really think we need to celebrate even if we have a cultivated meat product that's 5% cultivated meat, that's better than the cultivated meat product we had yesterday. And we should be celebrating that and using that as the step to get to 10 and to 30 and to 50. So I would like to see us, talking more about that. And even if you look at traditional meat products or slaughtered meat products, they're hybrid right now. There's plant filler in many products that are on the supermarket shelves that are what anybody would consider to be traditional meat product. You can buy sausages now that have apples and pineapple and potato and all sorts of plant-based product inside of it. So this isn't novel. Overall, the overall concept isn't novel, but I think in order to, the consumer will be more accepting if they, if we can just get out there and get product on the shelves in places and in restaurants like Giuseppe was saying. I agree with that strategy 100%. That in high-end restaurants, people, in this industry, they'll be the early adopters, right? They'll be the folks that will be talking about it. And I really do think that there's a number of people that are, that want to eat their ethics. They want to eat their value system. They want it, meaning they want to eat a product that's ethically and sustainably produced. And they will eat this product. And I think we quite frankly will be surprised, what happens. And Giuseppe, I feel you with the, you said about the ranchers. I worry every day that all of a sudden I'm going to have the Ohio Cattlemen's Association protesting outside my house. But, it is what it is. I'm sure the same people, I'm from, like I said, I'm from here in Ohio. The Orville and Wilbur Wright, I know when they flew that first airplane, people were saying, there's no way I'm going to get on a piece of equipment like that and fly in the air. These people are crazy. And here we are, not even 100 years later, and we all fly everywhere, all over the planet, so it'll take time, but I think people will come around to it. And hopefully in our lifetimes, there won't be a such thing as alternative meat. It'll just be meat. That's what we're still eating,
Great. And so as we wrap up and conclude the panel, maybe rapid fire answers from Kelly and also Giuseppe. Kelly, if a cell-based meat company approached you to use their fats, to use your fats, would you say yes?
So I'd leave the decision to my co-founders, Nicola and Vincent, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm no longer part of 77 Foods since this summer. So I'm now an advisor to other startups. So I'd leave the strategic decision entirely to them. But as I said earlier, now the R&D team are going to have a full plate of ingredients as solutions to design products. And I truly believe we should just choose the best ingredients, whatever they come from. And Giuseppe took that idea to the next level, developing products with ingredients coming from 5 different possible sources on Earth, maybe later from other planets, I don't know. But yeah, just let's be open and learning and make the best choices based on the customer needs we identified and the technical bottlenecks that we need to solve.
Great. And then a really quick answer, Giuseppe, does your team, if you go beyond that proof of concept, is your team interested in creating that cell-based meat in-house, or would you work with a different cell-based meat company to create that cell-based meat?
We would consider these cell-based ingredients, proteins or fats, mostly as partners, such as we consider our yellow pea protein providers. So we wouldn't do the cells ourselves. We think that to us, we do enough with our innovation, and we leave the experts to do their job, which is getting to us the best extracts or live cells, etc., that we can incorporate in our products.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. That concludes the session. And we'll see you on the next sessions. Thank you.